Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played 11 seasons with the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. He was a defenseman on those first Gretzky teams in LA. And this is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey. And of course, now what we're talking about as the playoffs, which means we're going to be talking about Uncle Barry. And what that first game, Tampa Bay and the Islanders, was pretty much the kind of game that you would expect to be first 1-2 wins.
Yeah,
no
kidding. And I'll tell you, if it wasn't for Vasilevsky, Varlamov played well too for the Islanders, but Vasilevsky, especially early, made a lot of big saves. I think you could kind of fault him. That one that Polak scored on, it was kind of weird. I wasn't sure if it was tipped or not. But usually Vasilevsky would have that. But again, if he hadn't played great in the first period, it would have been a lot worse. But
it's interesting to me too about, and I do understand why that is, but after you play a big playoff game like this, and boy, this really does remind me of old school hockey. What do the boys say? The boys say there's no room out there, and I'm always struck by, why can't there be no room during the regular season? Well, I know the answer to that. It's hard to play at this level of intensity for 82 regular season games, but do you remember them being the Tampa Bay Lightning getting anything off the rush? Because I don't remember that.
Right, and the turnovers too that the Islanders forced. I mean, I know the Tampa turned the puck over, but the Islanders forced them to turn over. Like Stamkos there on Barzal's goal, turned it over twice there. So that's uncharacteristic of Tampa too.
Well, it's interesting about that, about turnovers. I remember when the neutral zone trap was all the rage. Now I'm really dating myself because that was in the mid 90s. That was 25 years ago. But I remember talking to the great Scotty Bowman about that system, and he goes, that's been around since the 1950s. It's really not all that new. And he goes, and it's always mischaracterized. He said, you guys refer to it as a defensive system. He says, I view it as an offensive system because the trap is the idea of the trap is to create turnovers, and then you immediately turn those turnovers into goals. So I always view it, he says, as an offensive system. That's how I'm going to get my offense going. I'm going to force turnovers and then live off the rewards of those turnovers.
Pretty interesting take on Scotty. That is true, right? Scotty Bowman was great. I remember when I was living in Detroit, and Detroit played Philadelphia in the finals. And we had the Legion of Doom, right? Lindros's line there, and who are they going to play on defense against them? And Scotty Bowman puts Larry Murphy and Nick Lidstrom out there. And I'm thinking to myself, they're going to get run over. But it's almost like a cowboy riding a bull, right? You're not going to out-muscle the bull. So you get a lighter, they were quicker, they moved the puck, they played with angles. They didn't try to out-muscle that line. I thought that was that was the first time I really liked Scotty. Like, man, maybe he is really that good of a coach, because that was
Well, and I'm sure the way Scotty looked at it too was kind of the old Wayne Gretzky principle about defense. If I have the puck, the other team can't score. That's pretty good defense. So and Lidstrom will and Murphy will take control of the puck. So.
Just getting off topic a little bit here, just quickly. It's Barry Shelley. He's such an intelligent, tasteful man. Morning, guys. Your shrimp pizza looked great yesterday. Shrimp pizza. Did you see that?
I didn't, but I'm just, and it's not a reflection on your cooking, because I would try it if it was yours. But when it comes to pizza, I'm really a purist. I don't do chicken. I don't do that chicken barbecue.
Oh,
pizza.
Really?
Yeah, I just stuff that went on pizza when I was a kid.
Okay, so pepperoni, all that, the meat pizza,
ham, sausage. Okay. Yeah, I just chicken, shrimp, and just I don't do pineapple either. I can tolerate it, but. And I like I said, I will try just about anything. But so shrimp pizza, I'm sure it was delicious, but it's just not my cup of tea.
Does your wife make a homemade pizza? I'm sure she does.
She does, yeah.
Do you know if she puts the pie shell in and bakes it a little bit first before she puts the toppings on?
I don't know the answer to that. She generally likes to, when she's cooking pizza, to get the cauliflower crust. So she spends a lot of time on that. What I remember from watching her do the cauliflower is how often she wrings it out to get the moisture out of it. So,
Oh,
but I've gotten to the point where I like Colorado. Colorado. Yeah, I do like Colorado too, but I
yeah.
like cauliflower pizza.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't had it. I should get that too. Yeah.
Yeah, you would like it. I mean, the crust. You just have to. It's what I always say about in the early years of veggie burgers. People refer to them as a kind of a veggie burger, but to me, it was just beans. It was, and I just said, if you just call it beans, like I like beans,
Yeah. Sure.
I'll be fine with it. Don't tell me it's a burger. Just say, we're going to have, beans.
Yeah.
So now
I
they don't
agree.
even do that. The plant-based burgers now, I don't even know what's in them. I'm afraid to ask because I'm from the generation that did the Soylent Green
Right.
movies. So what's in a veggie burger? But
Definitely.
so,
Hey, did you see? It's not a big deal, but Paul Maurice was taking a little bit of heat. He's getting questioned, anyways, why he did not shake hands with the Montreal players after the Winnipeg Montreal series, and he made a statement after. I thought it was pretty interesting. Then when he first started coaching, the coaches didn't go do that. They didn't shake hands with the players on the other team after the series, and then that started to happen. And he went out and did it. He said he did it in a Nashville series. I guess maybe it was with Carolina. And he remembered thinking to himself, what am I doing out here? It's kind of like he felt it was disrespectful towards the players. It was something that the players should do. They're the ones that battled for whatever many games they played in the series. And it was almost disrespectful for the coach to join in on that whole ceremony. So he stopped doing it again. I thought there was interesting. I started thinking, like, how many I guess there are some coaches. I mean, I remember seeing Rod Brindamore this year shaking hands with players, but it was interesting.
do you think it's different for Roddy because he was a player himself and Paul
Probably
Maurice
right. Yeah.
in the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, I'm a big fan of Paul Maurice. I like the way he coaches. I like the way he carries himself. But I would just, politely would be the right word. I would politely disagree with him on that. I think, you're engaged in the battle.
Yeah.
You're on that bench. You're chirping at players when they're coming by.
Yeah.
You're a part of it all. I mean, you don't, I prefer more now. I did see, when the Red Wings won the Stanley Cup, I found it fascinating that Mike Babcock stood off to the side along the boards with his family, and he didn't get in the middle of it all and, hug each player. And I mean, he may have hugged him before, but
Right.
he wasn't in the midst of the celebration. And I asked him about it. And he said, this is their time.
Yeah.
He said, I have my time during the year when I'm doing my thing and trying to get them. But, I didn't go out and I didn't deliver a single check. I didn't score any goals. I didn't make any passes. So this is their time to celebrate.
Right.
But
I do. I hear you. I do. I've seen times though where a coach doesn't go through the handshake line, but then the players come over to him. He stands over the boards, and if the players wanted to come to him to shake his hand, then it was more a sign of respect, and that was okay. I guess I hear it. I see it both ways, but yeah.
I mean, if you want to make the argument that the players may not want to shake the other coach's hand, just not their thing. But I think that's true of every player on the other team. You're going through that line. Were there guys you didn't want to shake hands with, but you did anyway?
Yeah, very rarely though. I remember a series against the Islanders, and Bob Nystrom, late in the game, we were winning at the Garden. He came and knocked me out cold, like a forearm shiver. Spent the night in the hospital and everything. Now, to his credit, we played like 2 days later. He actually got a hold of me and called me and apologized. And he wasn't, we played against each other all the time. He certainly wasn't afraid of me. He wasn't afraid of anybody. But he apologized. He was really respectful. And then we ended up losing the next game. And I think that was the game that finished the series and went through the handshake line. And I was actually, as much as the guy knocked me out, I really respected him, the way he handled himself. And we had a good talk. Not good talk. We, shook each other's hands. He apologized again. And I said, listen, I got total respect for you. So like even when somebody, I guess it's how people do it. Like a guy like a Claude Lemieux, sometimes with things he did out there, you didn't really want to shake his hand. But most guys, rarely did you not want to shake somebody's hand. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's one of the grandest traditions in the game.
Yeah.
I really like it. And I like what it says. What it says is that, we're engaged in a sporting battle out there. But when we're done, after we knock each other around a little bit, we still remember that it's a game. So
Totally. Yeah.
So I like
And I
it.
tell you, those playoff series, man, you get away. You were taught back when I played too. It's still the same now, but you do anything you have to do to win. Like you break the guy's arm to win, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So we're doing some nasty stuff to each other, and then shake hands after. Yeah, it's
it's funny. When I was a kid, I just really, like the story of Bobby Clark. I think it was John Ferguson that told Bobby Clark to go out and get it done, as I recall.
Yeah.
I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And as I got older, and especially after I started covering the NHL and stuff, I thought the absurdity of that is beyond. We're playing hockey here.
Yeah.
Like I like playing hard, no doubt about it, and I like the guys that play on the edge of the rules, but breaking someone's a bone, boy,
I'll tell you, we did though. I mean, I remember when I was in LA and Jimmy Carson, I played with Jimmy Carson. He got traded as part of the Wayne Gretzky trade. Now he's in Edmonton, and we were playing that series the first year that Wayne was in LA, and we're playing that 7-game series against Edmonton. It got nasty, and I ran Jimmy the boards, and we were friends and everything, and give him what Bob Nyström did to me, gave him the 4-up shiver and knocked him out. And I remember thinking after I felt bad about it, but during the game you're thinking, got to do what you have to do to win. But
yeah, well, that's the other thing too about we had the in baseball we had I'm trying to think, Cole on the Yankees and using the illegal substance.
Yes,
and he's doing that, and guys are quizzing him about it, and I'm thinking, in our hockey world, we're living in a glass house.
Oh yeah,
because we can't complain about anything because our motto is, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Exactly.
Just like steroids, anything that anybody else is doing. Now, I'm not suggesting that there's any steroids in hockey. I'm just using that as an example. You can't if you see some cheating going on in the other league, if you're a hockey player, you can't act appalled by it.
Right. Yeah. Totally. I remember when my first couple of years when the shield started coming in, we would put Vaseline on the outside of our gloves and then kind of rub your glove in the guy's face so the Vaseline would get on the shield, and he couldn't get it off, so they'd have to take his helmet off. So that player, especially a good player, wouldn't be able to play for a while because they had to go take his helmet off and clean the either put a new shield on or clean it off. So
I don't think I've ever heard that one before.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's one I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Hey, so it's not like Larry Brooks wrote an article about this on the weekend. It's kind of an interesting topic. The cap and Kucherov in Tampa. So basically, Tampa is playing with a team that's over the cap right now. It doesn't matter now because the cap only counts during the season. Right. But it was interesting how you look at that, right? So Kucherov didn't play the whole year because he had surgery. So his $8 or $9 million salary doesn't go against the cap because he's on long-term injury reserve. So the Tampa, who would have had a problem with the cap, now gets under the cap, but now they get that player back for the playoffs. And it's funny because I remember we've been talking about it too, and it's obvious you see it happen during the season. Then you don't really think about it until the playoffs come and go, well, it's not against the rules. I mean, you're allowed to do it, but it's kind of one of those things. I mean, I wonder if the league and the Players Association ever looks back at that and goes, do we need to do something about that or not?
It's legalized cap circumvention.
Yeah.
One of the arguments that one of my colleagues has made to me, because I've defended it, is that Kucherov could have played maybe with 2 weeks to go or 3 weeks to go. It should have done that because that would have forced the Tampa to pay a price of some kind of price. But what I would argue is you wouldn't pay that big a price because we're in that prorated salary anyway. And then you would have had to move some people down there. But you can just move, anybody down there, play with 22 guys and move the whole salary down to the minors, for your 23rd guy. And you could have taken care of that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he could have played a month before the regular season. Right.
It's interesting though, right? You think to yourself, okay, is that an unfair advantage?
Well, yeah. Well, Dougie Hamilton, what I want to talk about, was the first to point out that, we played against a team that was almost $100 million team. It was a $98 million team. Right. And, that's a real advantage. Like if you're 18 million over the cap, that's one superstar. No, that's two superstars, and then maybe a depth defenseman.
Well, in their case, I mean, and Stamkos was out too for an extended period of time, I believe, right? So they basically after the trade deadline, well, in the playoffs, they added Kucherov and Stamkos, two potential Hall of Fame players, right? To a team that already was pretty.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, potential is the right word, but I would say they're both. I mean, I think Stamkos is already a lock, and Kucherov is certainly headed in that direction.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Well, there's a lot of things that go on that people don't appreciate the way that some teams do business. Like, for example, and I'll go from one that I don't think really matters, and then one that maybe does matter. The one that doesn't matter is I remember when the New York Rangers, who were still in contention, held the press conference and announced they were going to rebuild.
Yeah.
Two general managers I talked to thought that was outrageous. Just
really?
Totally outrageous for them to that a team of the magnitude of the New York Rangers would throw in the towel in a season in which they weren't completely out of it and go in that directions. And just thought it was, he said, I would have been embarrassed to stand up there.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So
see, for me, I thought they made a smart decision. They said to themselves, okay, yeah, we could potentially make the playoffs this year.
That's the exact.
But are we going to, what are we going to be down the road? We need to rebuild.
There's no denying the logic of it. It's just, would you do that? Like, would, the great Sam Pollock done that? Would we had, the guys, teams have done that in the 80s or 90s or 2000? No, I don't think so. It's become now acceptable to just raise the flag and say, we're going to strip it down to the chassis. Like what, Toronto did, what Buffalo did, what the Red Wings are doing now, announce it to the fans, exactly what we're doing. We're not throwing games because players wouldn't do that, but we're not trying real hard from the managerial standpoint to win games. So there were people that just didn't, now it's acceptable. It's accepted clearly by the fan base. So
well, and that's who they target, right? They sent that out to the fans, right? So their logic then is they're saying to the fans, listen, we owe you the truth here. We don't want to make it look like we're just bad at our jobs as general managers, as coaches, as players. We're telling you exactly what we're doing. There's a process here.
We failed. We put this team in such a terrible position that now we think it's there's no way to redeem it. So now we're going to redeem it. So you're admitting, boy, we failed.
Or are you saying that the players that were the core of this team that made it successful are now getting past their prime, and then we need to move them now so we can still get something?
You are saying that, but it is your job as management to manage the cap and manage your older players. That's part of being a GM.
Right.
And so
that's what they're doing, though. They're moving those guys out.
Yeah, they are. They are doing that out, but now it's too late. You should be doing it all along. So that
so you trade a Ryan McDonagh when he's playing great, the team's going to the finals.
No, you don't play him when he's playing great. You try to trade him, sort of right when he's beginning. If you're perfect. Now, look, I'm just being devil's advocate here. I don't think it's real easy to do that. But I'm saying when you do admit that you're rebuilding, what you're saying is we just couldn't figure it out. We didn't get it done. We didn't.
But I would argue that they're saying, okay, we can figure it out, and we're doing what we need to do because we're figuring it out.
Well, you didn't figure out in such a time. Like the ideal way to do it, if you're a general manager, would be have a team that's constantly in contention. Right. That you marshal your forces and your players. Now, I'm not saying that's easy to do, but I also think it's not impossible. There are teams that
Chicago in the past, right? Chicago in the past, and they won. They
changed their team 3 times. And won Stanley Cups with different teams. The core players were all the same, though.
Right.
So let's not forget that. But Ken Holland, I remember when the salary cap came in, a lot of people were predicting, well, now what's Ken Holland going to do? He's going to have a salary cap. Well, he extended that playoff streak a lot longer than people thought, and then it collapsed.
Right.
He
probably did it longer than he should have. You think?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But he did, he did keep him competitive. But when I started this conversation, I said one of the criticisms that really wasn't all that important. That's this one.
Right.
But there is one that probably is important. Now, when Steve Yzerman decided to be the third man in on the trade, and that allowed David Savard to get to Tampa from Columbus by retaining half their salary. There were general managers in this league and some columnists who wrote about it as well. Should we be doing that kind of nonsense? Should we be helping another team? Like, they just didn't like the smell of it,
Yeah.
Like, and in this case, it helped that Tampa Bay team get that $18 million advantage in the postseason.
Right.
So the people didn't like that.
What did Detroit get when they did that?
Well, they got the right essentially to buy a 4th round draft pick for $1 million.
Ooh, I thought he would have got more than that. Ooh,
That's
surprising. Yeah, well, especially when it's those two teams with Yzerman and Brisebois who work together, right? That makes it look even worse. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, now there's I think that's going to be interesting this summer, though. Like, that's a fascinating way. I don't have any problems with it. I don't know how you feel about it. But this summer now if you're David Poile, and I just wrote about this very scenario, I just threw it out there. We say things like, "Oh, it's impossible to move Duchesne," and it probably is. Too many years left. But Ryan Johansson, $8 million contract, way too much for the player he is.
Yeah,
he's only got. I shouldn't say only. He has 4 years left.
Yeah,
so not 7, not 6, not 5, 4. So David Poile goes to Seattle and says, "Hey, look, and I know, and everybody in the league knows, if Ryan Johansson is your number 3 center, that's not bad. That's not bad. He helps you. He can win a faceoff, and in big games, he plays reasonable defense.
Yeah.
And, he's got enough skill that on your third line, what if he could get you 10, 11, 12 goals?
Right.
But you're not going to pay $8 million for him." So he calls his friend Steve Yzerman, and he says to Steve, "We'll give you whatever to take his half of his. We'll keep 2. Okay, now there's 6 left. We'll ship 6 to you, and you got to keep 3 of it for 4 years, and we'll pay you whatever it is, a 1st round pick, something, and then you ship it to Seattle for a bag of peanuts, and they keep 3. Now you've paid off 2 teams, but you've gotten rid of that contract for only $2 million for the next 4 years. And where you're at in the Nashville Predators history, where, boy, you're right on the edge there. You could fall off the cliff here if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Now you've opened up. Now you got $6 more million, and then you trade Ryan Ellis, and now you've got 6 more million. So now you got $12 million. And you put you still have the Skinner problem with Duchesne, where you got a guy that can't play in your top 6.
Right.
You're going to be paying a lot of money, but there's nothing you can do about that. You just tuck him away and make him your 12th forward and hope for the best.
Well, that's good for David Poile. What does that do for Detroit, though? Detroit gets they still have to leave somebody.
It has to be worth their while. So
right.
It's going to have to be, and it's going to have to. What if it's a 1st round pick?
Right. But so then Detroit has to carry $6 million on the books.
$3 million.
$3 million on the books.
4 years. But I think what they would do is they would do it 1 year, and then they'd
I was going to say, because now if they start to get to the point where they're a contending team or get better anyways, which they will over the next 2, 3, 4 years, I mean, they're going to want that cap space, right?
Yeah, they will, but
interesting.
But if you could get a 1st round pick out of it,
right? So then, is that the player? That's not the player that Seattle picks from Detroit for the expansion draft, that's a trade.
Well, it could be. I
Right.
mean, if that's the way you worked out the trade.
Right.
You know,
Interesting.
and you got to pay Seattle off too.
Right.
You got to give them something. So,
yeah. I'll tell you though, and I hear you. I hear the concept, and it's good for David Poile. I guess my concern from Seattle's end is Ryan Johansson. Like, I don't think he fits as a third line centerman. Like, I think he needs the ice time of a top two centerman, right? Like first or second. The third line guys are like, he's the kind of guy.
If you give him that ice time, though, you'll be disappointed.
Oh, I know. I agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
So anyway, look, it's better than not having any chance to move him. Like, do I think it's going to happen? Yeah, probably not. I think 4 is probably too many.
There's no question. You're going to have to get very creative to move Johansson. And
I mean, you could make this work with Tyler Johnson too.
Sure.
So the Red Wings take, they get the contract, and you pay them off, and he's got 4 years left. So I'll tell you where it really works. James Neal, 2 years left at $5 million. You move him along. You pay off 2 people. Seattle ends up with him. Red Wings eat $2 million for a couple of years.
Right. Am I imagining more? I guess the money wasn't the same in the past, but you see these guys like the Skinner, Duchesne, Johansson, James Neal. Is there more players like that now that have signed big deals that haven't fulfilled the contracts, that played well to get the contracts, and now they're not continuing?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it's really not that many when you think about it. I mean, right now we got Parise. I would say Parise, Neal, Skinner, and then Duchesne, Johansson. Those are, it's like Tyler Johnson to a less extent, but Tyler Johnson is a $5 million player.
Yeah.
Like, he's not.
Right. And he doesn't seem to be, I hate to use them, like those guys look like, I mean, it looks bad that they played hard to get the contract and now they haven't fulfilled it. It's not like they're having bad luck. I just don't think that they're putting the effort in to play the same way. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Well,
speaking of that,
or is it just their skills deteriorated?
I don't think the skills have deteriorated, because you watched Duchesne and Johansson in the playoffs, and they were playing the way they should be playing. Like, they showed they can still do it. I don't think it's like these old guys that can't do it anymore. I think it's a lack of effort. That's the way I see it. But real quick before we go here, Ron Jameson from the Buffalo is asking about the Eichel trade rumors. What are you hearing?
Well, it's a bad situation that really seems to me to be getting worse, because from what I've been told from people around the league, Eichel's disputing what the Sabres think he should be doing medically. He has his own idea of what. So the reason I think that's bad is because I think that makes him more difficult to move. Are you getting a guy who's going to have to go under and have surgery? He's going to miss a good chunk of the season.
Well, so that didn't get cleared up. Like, Adams came out, the general manager came out and said that they were on the same page. That's not accurate.
Oh, he did say that, eh? When was that? Just recently?
No, that was a couple of weeks ago. I thought he came out and said that they were on the same page. And then I hadn't heard any more about it, but that may have been just his take on it.
Well, I mean, I know Eichel did try to do what they asked him to do. Maybe that's what he was speaking of.
Okay.
But I think he thinks that ultimately he's going to need surgery to repair it. But So anyway, I think at this point, don't they have to trade him now?
But I guess like again, he's one of the guys that I look at and I go, okay, if I'm a GM, you don't know for sure what you're going to get, right? That's my view. Have I got this, great player, franchise player that people thought he was going to be, or do I have a guy that?
But the only season that's been bad was the one where he was, injured all year.
But I don't see him being you don't see him being a Connor McDavid, or maybe that's unfair, or an Austin Matthews, or I just don't see him like putting the team on his back and saying, "Come on, guys." But I guess in fairness, Austin Matthews and McDavid haven't done it either, right? They've done it during the regular season, but they haven't done it in the playoffs. So, yeah, I guess I get caught up in watching him play, and then it just looks like he's really not doing. But maybe it's just that's the way he plays, right?
Well, I mean, looking now, I want to look up his stats here, but before this season, he wasn't his self. Now, your Rangers could be one of the teams that are interested in him. So,
oh man, you think so?
yeah. So,
yeah. Okay, so who they move then? They move Zibanejad?
I think so. Yeah.
But then from Buffalo's end, okay, and the problem with Zibanejad right now, the reputation that he's starting to build, and I think maybe it's unfair to him, is that when the games got a little tough there, he kind of faded away. Yeah, I love him as a player. I thought he was fantastic. He improved so much. Here's a Ranger, but it'd be interesting.
All right. Well, let's look at this here. Okay, so Eichel, at 20 years of age, scored 24 goals, 32 assists for 56 points. Then following year, 24, 33, 57. The next year, 25, 39, 64. The next year, 28, 54, 82. The next year, 68, 36, 42, 78 for one of the worst teams in the league. Then he gets hurt. And he has what everyone considers an off year. He has 18 points in 21 games. No goals, though. 2 goals. So
based on those years where he's scoring, he's a 25-goal scorer on average, roughly.
You would say so, but if he was on a better team, would those numbers be greater? I think yes. I mean, the Buffalo teams haven't made the playoffs in a decade. So, one of the lessons that I think Steve Yzerman kind of gave to the fan base in Detroit when he just talked about, why his prospects don't have great numbers. And he said, essentially, we're not a very good team. He said it's hard to get great numbers when you don't have, as a good team. And he said, look what happened when Anthony Mantha.
There's a diehard Ranger fan. Eichel's not the biggest need for the Rangers. Please don't ruin the plan for this guy. That's her. She's a huge Ranger fan. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it may not work out anyway because they may not want to give up what.
So you feel confident that Eichel's going to get traded then? Is that what you feel?
Well, I think so. It's gotten so messy. Before my take on it when all this started was, look, why do you need to trade him? You got his rights for a long time. He's all tied up. He's been a consistent player prior to this season. And don't you think he'd be happier if he was winning?
And especially you look back and think, man, they traded Ryan O'Reilly. Man, like there's a guy that goes on to be a captain, Conn Smythe winner of the St. Louis Blues, right? So,
well, yeah, just think of your centers were Ryan O'Reilly and Jack Eichel.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
and that's the thing. You look back now and say, so if Kevin Adams does this and he doesn't get a whole lot for Eichel, and that sets franchise back a long way.
Well, and the other issue we have here is they've got other guys on that team now that want out. Ristolainen wants out.
Yeah. See, that's becoming one of those places where guys don't want to play. You can't sign free agents. I mean,
yeah, and Reinhardt sounds like he wants out. He wants to play center, and they're playing him on the wing. So,
wow.
There's a lot of issues there.
Yeah, and Jimmy Rutherford to the rescue. There.
I think that would have been the smartest move. And not to get rid of Kevin Adams, because I keep saying this, he was a smart player. He might end up being a terrific general manager, but he's not had to deal with anything of this magnitude before.
You're right. Exactly.
Thing, right? I mean, that's why, to me, if I was owner of that team, I would say to Kevin, and I've said this before, but look at what Bill Zito did. Like what the great fans, and they really are great fans. The great fans of Buffalo need is they need to see significant change. Yeah. And so I would follow the Zito plan, and I would go and I would make sure that I had 8 new faces on this team next year. I would have 2 new goalies. It doesn't even sound like they got Ullmark to convince to stay anyway. Ullmark played pretty well for him, but so I would get 2 new goalies. I would have 8 new places. I would tell my scouts, get me the 3 hardest working AHL free agents. Yeah. And like that kid that I want to the kid that Zito signed out of the AHL that was on their fourth line. I'm drawing a complete blank. It's not. It's not Lombardi. It's Lombard. No. Anyway, find me players like that that just want to come in, work hard,
change the culture of the team.
Yeah. Give me 3 of those.
And the thing is with Jimmy Rutherford, he walks into it's like that instant credibility, and that's what's unfair to Kevyn Adams. He may, like you said, he may become that, but he doesn't have that credibility right now. He just hasn't done it today. So
and you start there. You give yourself two new goalies and maybe 6-7 new players who want to be there, excited to be there, and you've got some talented players there.
Yeah, totally. Well, you look at what Lou Lamoriello did in with the Islanders, right? I mean, people are talking more and more now that Toronto hasn't won a playoff series. I can't remember in how long, and
4.
Yeah, and now Lou Lamoriello goes over the Islanders, and they've won 6 playoff series since he's been there. So, and he was with Toronto, and they let him go, right? See, that's the thing I wonder. Like, is that not being played up more? Like, I like some of the things that they've done there in Toronto. Brendan Shanahan coming in, but he made the decision to go with Kyle Dubas instead of Lou Lamoriello.
Yeah,
and you wonder, is that the right move or not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. The analytics are nice, and I find them valuable, but there's also a lot to be said for a guy that just has a feel for what a good team looks like.
Yeah, like I think the story was that Kyle Dubas was going to leave and go someplace else. Like he was that hot prodigy coming up, and if he didn't give him the job, then he was going to leave. Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, I just wrote this the other day. Here you got 58-year-old Barry Trotz, a 78-year-old Lou Lamoriello as the league's new dynamic duo. Yeah, and totally. Barry Trotz was on one of those Zoom calls, and he said, we talk every day. And he said, I love listening to Lou Lamoriello talk about what he's looking for in a player and how we want, and the way we talk about things. Like, Barry Trotz loves talking about the game, and Lamoriello likes talking about the game. That's the perfect marriage. Yeah. You have 2 guys that they just want to win, and they see things, I bet, pretty closely the same. There's probably some disagreements about players, but there's always going to be that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you look at a player and you like them, and I look at him and I go, "What do you think of Tom?"
Yeah, no question, absolutely. Vice
versa.
So you look at those 2 situations. Barry Trotz wins the Stanley Cup and they don't re-sign him in Washington, and then he goes off and
don't want to pay him. So
yeah. Wow. And then look at what's happening. How many coaches are on their second coach since him, right? Yeah. In Washington. Not doing anything in the playoffs. Toronto, same thing. They let Lou Lamoriello go, and then they're not going anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and Washington looks stale. Do you think Barry Trotz would have allowed that team to get stale? I don't think so.
No. I must admit, I am coming around to seeing how great Barry Trotz really is as a coach. I don't think I gave him full credit, as you know, to your cousin, Barry Trotz.
Yeah. Well, he does a good job. I think Lou Lamoriello also does an exceptional job. He always has been, and they're good. Both of them are good people. There's never been anybody been more miscast in this league as Lou Lamoriello. People thought that he was like kind of overbearing, and he's not like that at all. He's he's very humble.
And I think with both of them, they're great communicators. This is the way we're doing it. It's not debatable. I'm not going to yell and kick and scream about it. This is it. If you don't do what you're told to do, you're not going to participate on the team. And that's the message that's being sent there. The players either buy into it or they don't.
Yeah. Like, it was interesting. Like, this is the kind of guy Barry Trotz is. He went over to Alex Ovechkin's wedding.
Yeah.
And he didn't attend the reception because he said it's for the players. They don't need their coach hanging around seeing what's going on. He went over there to pay his respects. He saw Alex and his bride, but he did not attend the reception because
I didn't know that. So he went all the way over to Russia just for the wedding?
He did.
Wow.
But he did. He said it just, let the players, let their hair down. They don't need to see the coach seeing the way they're going on.
That's interesting.
And, that's the kind of things he thinks about. He just wants it to be right, and he's an interesting speaker, and he's entertaining for the players, and he cares about them. I think most players would say that Barry Trotz cares about me as a person.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it too, showing that you care about them, right? I mean, there's some guys, they're young, they may not get it, but especially as guys get older, they're going to say, well, like, I got to go through the wall for this guy because he really cares about me. He does something like what he did with Ovechkin, right? To go over the wedding over. Again, it's over Russia too, for God's sakes.
Yeah. So there's a lot about to like about Trotz, and his style works. In terms of let's try to prevent them from scoring, and we're always going to have it. So
yeah, definitely. Hey, can you do me a favor too? Have your lovely wife, Mrs. Allen, look at my shrimp pizza.
I will. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Well, we've gone a long time today, but I think the playoffs warrant our overtime. We went overtime today
yes, we did. Yeah.
So, all right. Thanks for joining us. You can check me out on DetroitHockeyNow.com and also Hockey Buzz. I write national columns for them. And
again, you can listen to the radio version of this show on radio.co at 365 Sports. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.